Good evening, traders. Today is Thursday, March the 7th. It's in the evening after the close. So we're going to review the profile today and what we saw, what happened. I want to talk about a couple of things like maybe the nuances in looking at the open. I talked to a bunch of traders, not a bunch, but I talked to a few traders today. And I see people that are having issues, which I'm not perfect, but I know there's some things that I've done in my trading that have helped me, and maybe they can help other people. Especially with this, saw somebody talking earlier about, just trying to short, trying to short trend days. And, somebody else who was trying to short today was essentially a trend day. We put in double distribution. We had some singles, very bullish day, and trying to short that. And if the setup in there, then okay, try it, but don't put a lot of risk on for it, right? Because it might not work. There are some opportunities on days like today to get shorts in, but you don't want to stay in it for 30 minutes and let it go against you 10 points before you decide to cut it. So just a quick look at, I want to highlight this. This is a 60-minute chart with just the RTH sessions. And this was our previous balance area. So, this was our balance area here. We see this area. I had this look above and fail. Well, now we're back above that area, but I did extend this whenever we pulled back into this balance here. So we're back above that now. We've gotten away from our weekly and monthly VWAP, and we have Delta has been flattening out the past couple of days. So we may see Delta start to curl up, and that's I don't think it's going to add a lot to the picture. We'll see, but it could actually bring a little bit of weakness in my opinion. So once you start getting a lot of people long, then you kind of run out of buyers, right? Because volume's been very low as it is. So anyway, look at it today. We'll just kind of look at the profiles real quick. Let me swap over to the blocks profile. We'll just look at a standard profile. Turn my ETH on so we can see the overnight session. So this is what we were left with. Yesterday, we had one time framed up and we moved value up higher. So one time frame up. This high, it's higher than this high and above the overnight high. That's bullish. We didn't take out the IB low, we took out the IB high. That's bullish. This value is higher, not even overlapping. That's bullish. So all bullish stats. And then we had in our overnight session this morning, we came to the open with a very large move up. The market was very long. And so we opened with a gap. If you can see right here, we have this green dot right there is the open. So we opened up above the previous day's high. It's bullish. We came down and we basically tested this area, the previous overnight high area, and we found buyers. And this is one of the things, I'm going to stop right there and point this out. Let's see, we can look at this chart. So we have the open right here. Now, this is essentially the RTH open. So if I draw this line, that's the opening line. And you can see by looking at this, you have price go below it, above it, below it, above it, and just kind of just get stuck in there. That's very low confidence. So the things that I'm adding up in the beginning of the session is what have we been doing on the higher time frame? On the monthly, are we trending up? Yes, we're still in trend on the monthly. The weekly, we've been trending up. Now we're in balance. So it's neutral to bullish. And on the daily, where we've been trending up, we have, the past 2 days where we've one time framed up. So those all lean to the bullish side, right? And I think a lot of people fall into this bias that the market can't go up anymore. It's been going up too long. They've missed it. It's time for a short. And that's completely the wrong way to think. And so I have all that stuff stacked against me, or stacked in my favor at the open. And then I'm looking at where is previous value at and where are we opening in relation to that. So we opened up way above it, way above the previous high. That says something. We did have very long inventory from the overnight. So we watch this at the open and we see what happens. And we had a bunch of news releases. So that's one thing that I want to be more cautious at the open, just to see, people that aren't going to come in and trade a bunch of size in the overnight, because it's very illiquid and it'll move the market, or they're not at their desk yet. They haven't digested the news yet. They're going to come in at the open. And so at the open, I'm going to watch and see, what's the market trying to do right now, and see if if the market were very long in the overnight, does the market sell off? Well, that could just be these people taking profit. So I'll kind of watch this to see if it sells off and if it continues down, or do we have an opening drive? And then we have all these people, that are long in here. What do I think they're going to do? Try to get in the psychology of what they're going to do, and then use it with the stats that I have when we open up out of range. How often are we going to test this level and things of that nature? So I was watching the open, and we had an open auction, which, if you look at the market profile open types that I believe Dalton came up with and teaches, if someone doesn't know what they are, ask me, and maybe I'll do a video or share some links or something. But we open up and we have an open auction. It's the lowest confidence open you could have. So that tells you, wait, we need more information, right? So that was our open. And then if we look, I'm going to zoom in on his profile now. We know where everything's at. We know this is our previous high. This is our overnight high. We'll expand this out so we can look at the profile a little better. So we have we test lower. We test the previous high day. We find buyers. We come up, and then at this point, still not a lot of information. And then in B period, we trade inside of A for a little while, but we're tending to trade above the open now. We start moving above the open. And then we extend up towards the end of B period. And so that's some information. We don't know if it's going to fall back in the range, take out the lows of A. Not quite enough information yet. Everything's leaning bullish, but where do I put a trade on? Those kinds of things. If you didn't take this trade, which is a viable trade, then in my opinion, you're kind of waiting. I don't want to take this mid trade. That's just not a trade that I like to take on the first period of the day. So come up on B and then C period. This is great information here. So we have these singles right here in B, where B broke above A period, and then we see where C could not fill those singles. That's great information. So C, one time frames up, takes out the high B period. Everything is stacking bullish, bullish, bullish. And then we have D come in, can't even take out the low of B period. And then we have D, is that right? A, B, C, D. You have E period, takes out the low of C, but it cannot fill the singles. So that's whenever stuff is stacked so much that I'm not even as worried about getting in a trade and having it go against me some. I'm a lot more confident in the trade, because everything is showing me that the bid's stepping up. There's buyers. They're not waiting for halfback anymore. They're stepping in before we can even fill these gaps. So it's bullish information for me. There are some other things that, I'm not going to get into too much here. We can see this divergence. We see price going up here, and we see what is Delta doing. Delta's basically flat. Price going sideways. Bad line. Delta going flat. In the beginning of the session, really through half the session, I didn't get to watch the last half very well, but the tempo was not very strong. And whenever I see the tempo like that, and then I see this delta divergence, which you can see it on the candles pretty good too. You have you'll have like a footprint candle that goes up like this, and then you'll have another one that's higher, but with negative delta. Those kinds of things with all the other information, just I've seen them enough that I start thinking of a squeeze. And that's something I wrote in my thesis this morning. So I was kind of on the lookout for it anyway. We're getting back to all-time highs. Everything just stacked up. Okay, we might get a day where we just kind of squeeze higher. So what we ended up doing here is we came up. I had a level up here I was watching, but we came up and we essentially just kind of balanced in this area for a while. And at this point, I was done. I was doing other things. I was just kind of keeping an eye on the market. And then we finally, I think this is I period, we finally broke out of this balance and we came up. And what do we have here? This is great information. We have a poor high where we can't take out the high of the previous bar by more than 2 ticks. So this can mean several different things in the context of this. In the context of this move up, to me, that's telling me the market's too long. I looked at a few other things. I try my best to think in terms of probability. When it comes to emotion or psychology, I would rather think of what other people are doing. I try not to get emotional myself, but I try to think of what people would do if I was in that situation. The market's been trading up all day long, where we just broke out again. We don't really have a lot of structure behind us, and the market can't take out the high of that bar. I would be concerned if I was along. So we end up one time framing down. This stopped the one time framing up right here, where we took out this bar. This one took out the low of this bar right here. We had this inventory correction. That's all it is. We still didn't get down to fill the singles. We still didn't take out this low. A lot of people see this like, wow, that was a giant move. Sellers jumped in, and I think it was just these buyers. We had weak buyers. And they just had their stops run. We had people late in the day, up 30 points on the day. Depending on how many days you've been in this, you could be up, 100 points. And we just had a little bit of inventory correction. Just ran some stops, and then what do we end up doing? We end up spiking back up towards the high on the last bar. It's overnight, so I don't really care what it does. I'm going to wait until tomorrow, see what the inventory is, what the volume is, the range, where we open. So I don't care at all what this is doing right now. So if we look at the stats then, so we gapped up on the day. We had about a 10-point gap. We were able to fill that gap, but we moved value higher, just like we did the previous day. Here's our value from the previous day down here. This is our value today. That's extremely bullish. We have excess at the lows. That's bullish. We have a poor high. The market got a little too long. It's somewhat neutral. That's market profilers talk about these poor highs are going to be cleaned up. I'm sure they will eventually, but if we're not in a situation where I can say with some confidence that I think that the market is too long or too short, I think we're too long here. I think we're too long here. We saw some instances of it down here. We're too short. If we look at this move down, we're up here, we gap down, move down all day long. And you can start to see this, right? So, the same thing where we make the same low. And you start to see the same thing kind of in reverse of what we had today, just to the downside, where we have the singles in B period, we have this balance area in here, and then we break lower, we get too short. So what does the market do? I was looking for that this day. This day was more clear. Of course, I was watching this day better, but you could see that the volume just wasn't following us down here. And so generally on that, we know we can't move value down. We can't move TPOC down. So I look for that to revert back up into the close. Sometimes I'll trade it. Sometimes I'm not interested in it. But so we do have the poor high. We put in 2 sets of singles today, but we filled one of them. So we left the 1 set of singles here in B period. We only took out the IB high, couldn't take out the low, left the buy tail down there. We had 1.2 million of volume, which is okay. Positive 13,000 delta, which was towards the end of the day, really. We had here after lunch, we were still basically negative delta. So that was mostly in the end of the day. This is kind of a P-shaped profile, so we would think of that in terms of being short covering. And we've been seeing that a lot lately, and that's what causes squeezing us a lot, is that you have people that are actually trying to short the market. This is more flat than I've seen a lot of times. But you have people who are trying to short the market, and those are weak traders, and they just get kind of shoved out of their trades all day long. And what else do we get done? So that's a normal variation up. So we're 5 days into this month, and we've had 3 normal variation up. We've had a trend day up, and we've had 1 trend day down. That's our stats for today. The other markets were very similar. I don't want to take up too much time to go over those. Here's NQ. You can see they had several periods up there at the highs. They weren't technically weak or technically poor, I don't think. But on on NQ, I'm going to call that poor. These are singles, so that's just a couple points or whatever. Yeah, we have 5 ticks and 7 ticks, something like that. So we had essentially the same situation on NQ. And then my most hated market ever, RTY. Yeah, I'm going to talk about RTY. So that's all I got today. I hope that's helpful. If you don't have everything lined up in your favor, and I know I've heard this for years, but what does a higher time frame tell you? Start from the monthly chart down, and it helps. It makes sense. The monthly's up, the weekly's up, the daily is up. Why would I try to short this at all-time highs? Just because it's at all-time highs? But we could go up 500 points from here, and then we're 500 points above all-time highs. We can make all-time highs every single day, so it makes no sense to short based on that. It makes no sense to short because the market is strong. You can wait, just like today. You can wait until we make a lower high and we one time frame down. Then you have a reason to be short, in my opinion. If you don't have a setup that shows itself, then you just don't trade and you wait till the next day. You got to preserve your capital, and you got to wait for those good setups, or you're just going to blow out. So again, hope that helps. I hope you all have a good night, and see you all in the morning.